Before we get started, please go over to Amazon.com and grab a copy of my book, Education and Justice. If you have an African-American son in public school, you need this book because I teach you the many ways that public schools mistreat African-American boys and what you can do to help your son. So go over there and get your copy immediately. All right, so I want to go over this story from CNN about a U.S. citizen, an Army veteran, getting detained by ICE. Now, this is a concerning story, and I want to go right to it and read some of it from this CNN article. Fortunately, this young man was released by ICE, but after he had spent 3 days in detention, and he should have not been detained at all. In fact, from what I can tell, there was no reasonable suspicion to even stop and talk to him and no probable cause to detain him and so on. And I recall a federal judge out in California saying that ICE had to observe what, again, we call reasonable suspicion to stop and to question someone and probable cause to detain them or to search them. It looks like this young man was detained simply because he's Latino. All right, so I'm not saying a thing about deportations of people who are undocumented in the country. That's the law. I'm an attorney. I'm an officer of the court. I support the law. That is the law. So long as they're getting their due process rights, so long as ICE is observing the law. In this case, it seems to be questionable. Now, I'm not an immigration attorney, but again, I do know a federal judge said recently that even with folks who are in the country undocumented, ICE has to observe the law regarding Terry stops. Unreasonable suspicion they must have. They must be able to articulate some reason why they are stopping and questioning somebody, and certainly probable cause requires that they be able to show based on facts and circumstances that someone committed a crime was committed, and that this person here is probably the one who committed it. That's what a federal judge said. All right, now, hey family, do you believe in the work we're doing? Does our content speak to you? Do you appreciate our in-depth legal analysis and political commentary from an African-American perspective? Do you believe it matters to our community? Then don't just watch from the sidelines. Please click that membership button and become a member of the 2% Club today. That's right, we need just 2% of our subscribers to become channel members. For just $4.99 a month, that's less than 20 cents a day, you'll help us keep creating powerful content that defends our democracy, demands justice, and develops a strong African-American community. But if you want more, at $9.99 a month, which is only 33 cents a day, you'll get access to exclusive members-only live streams, bonus content, and behind-the-scenes updates. And for just $14.99 a month, which is under 50 cents a day, our top-tier members get access to live Zoom calls, strategy sessions, and a direct voice in shaping this movement. We're not just building a YouTube channel. Folks, we're building a movement based on righteousness and justice, just what our community needs in a time of disinformation and division. So if you believe in what we're doing, click the membership button and join now. Become a member of the 2% Club today. Let's build something powerful together. I don't know that any of that occurred in this situation. This says a U.S. citizen, an Army veteran, was detained at an immigration raid and held for 3 days. His family scrambled to find him. So let's read some of this. George Ritas, I think that's how you pronounce his name. If I'm wrong, please forgive me. George Ritas, a 25-year-old Army veteran and father of two, had been planning his 3-year-old daughter's Minnie Mouse birthday party at the park for weeks. He would get her an inflatable bounce house, invite the whole family, and shower her with gifts and treats. She was excited for the fun party, and he was excited to see the smile on her face, he said. Those plans fell apart last week when Ritez, a U.S. citizen, was detained by federal immigration agents during an immigration raid and protests at a legal Southern California marijuana farm where he worked. Left injured and burned from pepper spray and tear gas, Ritez was detained for 3 days without explanation, he said. His wife, who couldn't reach him during his detention, was scrambling to find out where her husband had been taken, and Ritez missed the party he and his toddler had been dreaming about. Instead of seeing flickering birthday candles and hearing children's laughter on his daughter's birthday, the father found himself alone in a cell with bright lights that never turned off, his skin burning and limbs aching. As he laid on a thin mattress covering a cement slab, he wondered if he would ever see his family again. Man, this is something. That's why I said this story is concerning. It goes on to say, all I wanted was to be there for my daughter's birthday. I was so excited to watch her turn 3 and just enjoy her day and just watch her be happy for her day. Ritez told CNN, and it sucked not being there. The arrest unfolded on July 10th when federal immigration officers carried out large-scale raids at 2 glass house marijuana farms in Carpinteria, I think, and Camarillo, and arrested over 300. I don't speak Spanish, so I probably butchered those words. Part of an ongoing trend of immigration enforcement at work sites like farms and construction sites that have struck fear into immigrant communities. That day, Ritez says he woke up and drove to work like he would any other day, not knowing there was unrest at his workplace. When he arrived at the Glass House Farms in Camarillo, where he works as a contract security guard, he was met with throngs of protesters, cars piled up in the middle of the road, and people standing in the street. He made his way through the crowd and was confronted by a barricade of agents blocking anyone from going into Glass House, he recounted. The Department of Homeland Security said Immigration Customs Enforcement and U.S. Customs and Border Protection officers were executing warrants at the marijuana grow sites and were met with hundreds of protesters. He got out of his car and walked up to the agents to let them know he's an American citizen who's just trying to get to work. I didn't think it was going to be a problem for me to go to work, as long as I identified myself and let them know what I was trying to do, he said. The agents refused to listen to him, Ritez said, so he returned to his car. That's when he says the situation escalated. The agents surrounded his car and started yelling conflicting orders to get out of his car, reverse and park his car, according to the father. Ritez then reversed, trying to leave the tense scene, he said. Agents continued yelling, banged on his window, and pulled on his door trying to get it open, he said. The uniformed federal agents eventually threw what appeared to be tear gas into the crowd of protesters, which blurred Ritez's vision and made him choke. I'm trying to leave. I'm trying to get out of here, Ritez said. He told agents in between gasping breaths. At that moment, one agent shattered his driver's side window and another sprayed pepper spray in his face, Ritez said, recalling feeling a piece of glass from the window cut his leg. Then they dragged him out of the car and threw him on the ground, pinning him down, he said. So this just sounds bad. I mean, this is a U.S. citizen and an Army veteran. Sounds like a good guy. I don't know. It doesn't sound like some sort of gang member or someone in the country legally and so forth. And why he was treated this way is just inexplicable, you know. I had one agent kneeling on my back and another one kneeling on my neck, said Ritez, who noted he had neck and back injuries from his 4-year Army service. And the guy served the country. Ritez recalled telling officers he couldn't breathe because of the pepper spray and tear gas. But he said they proceeded to put him in handcuffs and dragged him away without explaining what he was arrested for. The Department of Homeland Security would later accuse Ritez of assault, an allegation he vehemently denies. So, look, I've been practicing law for many years. I've represented many people who've been accused of assaulting law enforcement officers, and it is not uncommon for the law enforcement officer to rough up, assault my client or the defendant, and then accuse him of assaulting them. I don't know that happened here, but I have seen that more than one occasion. All right. We do know that Ritez is innocent of all charges until he's proven guilty, but I don't even believe in this case he has been charged with the assault. That may be forthcoming, but he's still presumed innocent if that does happen. Ritez became one of a number of U.S. citizens and legal permanent residents detained or arrested in the tense raids amid the Trump administration's immigration crackdown, with some arrested without explanation and with no way to contact their families, immigrant advocacy groups say. Shows of force and clashes between immigration officers and protesters at raid sites have become periodical occurrences in the Los Angeles area as more people oppose the federal government's immigration enforcement. So he says, they never told me anything. An EMT wrapped Ritez's leg wound in gauze before the father was escorted into an unmarked SUV and taken to an empty field where there were federal agents from several agencies, Ritez said. Agents took his fingerprints and photos, and when Ritez asked why he was detained, the agents wouldn't answer him, he recounted. They never told me anything. I sat there for hours asking them why I was here, why I'm being arrested, and no one could give me an answer, Ritez said. No one even knew who arrested me or why they arrested me. No one knew what was going to happen to me or who I was even going to go with. So this was just a terrifying and horrible experience for this young man. And after 3 days in detention, they did cut him loose and they allowed him to leave with no explanation, with nothing. Just bye, you're free to go. And again, he is a U.S. citizen and Army veteran. So he served the country. So you got to ask, just why was he detained in the first place? Did they think he was trying to interfere? And he was on the job? A security guard at that. I don't know if he was in uniform or not. So there are a number of questions here. But the very fact that he is a U.S. citizen and an Army veteran says a lot. So, it's their word against his word at this point. They said he assaulted an ICE agent. He vehemently denies that. I don't know. I have no idea. So we'll see if they later on file a charge against him for assault, which is a pretty serious offense. And as I've said in the past, I strongly recommend that you do not intentionally assault a federal agent. And I also strongly recommend that you don't interfere with federal agents or state law enforcement from doing their job. Again, I've been representing people for years and years and years. So be careful not to do that. If you're going to protest, protest. But do it in a very safe way. Do not do anything, again, to harm federal agents, to interfere with them, or to give them any reason to harm you. All right? So this story is very, very, very troubling, to be honest with you, that a U.S. citizen was detained and shut down for 3 days like this. One has to just wonder, and this is what Justice Sotomayor and Justice Jackson have been warning us could happen, that the way things are going, none of our rights are protected. Now, fortunately, and I think it is fortunate that the Trump administration did release this young man and he didn't get deported somewhere over in some foreign country. Thank God for that. But that could have happened. Okay, that could have happened. And from what I can tell, this young man should have never been detained in the first place. Coming to his job, trying to get into his work facility, there's no reasonable suspicion for anything there. Now, they were conducting a raid and, were probably on high alert and the adrenaline flowing, protesters and so forth. So in those kinds of situations, things can happen. And that's why I always say we have to, when we're dealing with situations like that, we have to try to de-escalate the matter and be smart about it, especially if we're out there protesting or around people who are protesting. And protesting is a protected activity by the First Amendment, so long as it is peaceful. So long as it is peaceful, it is protected by the First Amendment. All right? So, yeah, we protest, and we need to protest. Let's just do it in a safe way. And let's not do anything to harm or hurt a federal agent or anyone else, because that is a really serious charge, really serious. I went over that in a previous video. I'm glad this young man made it home to his 3-year-old and his wife. I'm glad he's safe. I don't know what he's going to do from here. First of all, I presume he's going to have to wait to see if they bring this alleged assault charge. That's going to be the first thing, just to see if they follow up on that, or was that some subterfuge to try to intimidate him or something. I don't know, but I have certainly seen that happen. All right, so I wanted to bring you this troubling situation here with this young man. I really sincerely pray that everything turns out okay for him and his daughter and his wife and his family. All right? So, folks, when U.S. citizens are treated this way, we got to pay close attention to that. And by the way, we need to pay close attention also to how non-citizens are treated as well. All right? But especially U.S. citizens. I have for almost 2 decades been fighting to protect people's constitutional rights. And this young man, his constitutional rights, I don't know the circumstances. I weren't there, can't say, but I hope those officers observed reasonable suspicion and probable cause before they detained and arrested him. I hope they did that. All right, so I am Reverend and Civil Rights Attorney Augustus Corbett. Thank you for watching this video. And remember, stay woke.